Out of the shotgun on third down. Cam Jordan got around the right tackle. Dobbs looks, sees nothing. Now he runs out to the left. He points to somebody. Turns to the 5. To the end zone. Touchdown! Incredible! Josh Dobbs with a rushing touchdown has run Minnesota to a 16-3 lead.
All right. Hey, Vikings fans. Welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer. We like talking about the Minnesota Vikings.
We do.
Skol.
Skol.
What are we drinking?
Today, we have the Raging River IPA from Front Street Brewery in Davenport, Iowa. We already recorded our TikTok trying this beer for the first time tonight. I've had it many times. This is the first time you've had this one?
First time for me, yep.
Yeah. It's just a simple, in a good way, a simple IPA. It's not aggressive. I think you said it doesn't try to do too much.
Yeah, it's just simple,
yeah,
straightforward, but it's definitely an IPA,
yeah.
and I like that.
In the way like a Bud Light or a Coors Light, they're like, a simple, light beer. This is a simple IPA. It's not too aggressive. So if you kind of like IPAs, this is your deal.
Yeah, it's good
and
stuff.
If you really like IPAs, this is still your deal because it's really good.
And it's a local product right
Yes.
here in the Quad Cities area.
Yeah.
So
This is my first one in probably a couple of months. It's definitely not going to be my last one. I will have many, many more Raging River IPAs over the course of my beer drinking career. It is your first one. Is this going to be your last one?
probably not.
Okay.
I would have another one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it a little bit more after we've finished at least one. But yeah, it's a good start off to the episode.
Indeed. We've got to talk about this win streak that we've got going on here. The Vikings have won 5 in a row.
Yeah, we just mentioned, you just threw out a fun little stat pre-show. The Vikings and the Timberwolves are both on 5-game win streaks.
I think the Timberwolves are on a little bit longer of a win streak.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, my factoid was the last time – I got this from Twitter. I can't claim that this is original knowledge.
All of our knowledge is from Twitter.
And it's Twitter, not X. It will always be Twitter to me.
Until they pay us.
Yeah. And then, even then, it'll be hard to not say Twitter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they pay us, it'll be X all the way publicly. But,
Anyways, the factoid that I learned today was the last time that the Timberwolves and the Vikings both had win streaks of 5 games or more was 2005.
Wow.
So,
geez, 2005. We didn't even have driver's license yet.
yeah, we were 14, 15.
Yeah, that was a while ago. That was almost 20 years ago. 18 years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
I see the picture pop up every once in a while when both the Timberwolves and the Vikings have like a really good, franchise player. Because back in the day, we have that iconic picture. I think it was a Sports Illustrated cover or whatever of Randy Moss and Kevin Garnett wearing each other's jerseys,
Oh, yeah.
like
that was a good
spinning
one.
each other's sports ball in their hands, and like, Minnesota, we got some superstars here. And I've seen that kind of pop up every once in a while. I think there was an Adrian Peterson version of it one time, but then again, I don't know who the Timberwolf would have been back in 08, 09, whatever. But the current one is JJ and Anthony Edwards, and that's the picture we need to see. Let's get that recreation there, guys.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated, get on that.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't.
Recreate that cover.
Yeah,
I'd buy a copy. That'd be fun.
yeah. I probably would too.
I can't say that I'm a huge Timberwolves fan. The Vikings definitely have most of my fandom.
Mm-hmm.
But I will loosely follow the other Minnesota sports.
I have joked before. Well, so I'm the same as you, gigantic Vikings fan. But if I'm going to root for another professional team, it's going to be a Minnesota-based team if there's an option. Although, like, if the Twins lose on a random day, it's not going to ruin my day. I might not even know. The Timberwolves lose, that's all they've ever done in my entire lifetime. I'm not a huge basketball fan, so, like, I don't really care too much. But if they start doing good, you better believe I'm going to be the biggest Timberwolves fan in the world if they make it to the playoffs and they start doing some fun stuff. But that's not till, what, May, June?
Yeah. It's a ways away.
We got some time.
We got time. We got college basketball to worry about first.
And even then, for me, college, I got, you got to get to March for me to start caring about college. If our alma mater is doing all right, my ears will perk up.
Hey,
if Iowa's doing okay, I'll kind of pay attention. But
you and I basketball, you watch out for them this year. They could be pretty good.
They could be. It's been. I didn't go last season. We went to the final game of the season 2 years ago.
2 years ago when we won the outright conference regular season title.
Regular season, yeah, and
then we laid an egg in the tournament. But
oh well. But we don't have to talk about losing teams right now, because our favorite team is a winning team right now.
6-4.
Yeah, both last week in the one game and overall in the season, they have a freaking winning record,
which is a far cry from what we thought they would be after the 0-3 start.
I mean, we have been on so much of a roller coaster ride this year between, preseason, we're going to win the Super Bowl. This is Kirk's year, quarterback on Netflix. Like, this is awesome. And then the first couple of weeks, it's like, geez, when are they going to start trading people? Like, is KOC going to get fired? Like, what is happening? Burn it all down. Let's start over and hope for Caleb Williams. And then, holy cow, Kirk is playing like an MVP, and everybody is figuring it out. We don't have a run game. We haven't had a run game all season, but you know what? It hasn't mattered. The defense is figuring it out. And then Kirk disintegrated on the field. And Josh freaking Dobbs has renewed our interest again and kept us, the Vikings.
But even before Dobbs, there's the little wrinkle of Jaron Hall in there for a
2
hot
series,
second.
yeah.
A hot second or two. But I don't know. You're right. It has been one of these where it's just been up and down and up and down. And despite the chaos, they've won 5 in a row, and they've won 6 of their last 7 games.
Mm-hmm. And I believe they're a game and a half mathematically out of the division lead.
Yep.
I think the Lions are 7-2. The Vikings are 6-4. So the Lions have played one less game. And the Vikings, their bye week is week 13? We're 2 more games away.
2 games away. We've got the Broncos this week at Denver,
Mm-hmm.
and then come home to play the Bears, and then bye.
Yep. And I believe this upcoming Bears game was my lock to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And your lock to win. So
That's
we'll
right.
have to see. We haven't really touched on our locks, our preseason lock games.
We haven't.
But we should. Maybe we've got it all right behind me. We'll pull that out.
It out. Maybe that's a good fodder for the bye week.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Also, I believe right after the Bears game, we'll have another guest on the show on the week after the Bears game. To give you a hint, we won't announce who it is, but just to give you a hint, it's a guest that we've had on the show before. So,
if you're just listening and not watching, I'm winking right now.
Yeah. Yep. So for all of those people that are excited for that person, or any of the previous guests we've had on the show before, just prepare yourself, get ready. Let us know your guess. If you reach out to us on social media and let us know who you think our guest is going to be. If you're right, maybe we'll send you a sticker. Maybe. But yeah, we have winning football.
It's been an exciting stretch, and it's been super fun to watch the team. I mean, there has still been frustrating moments. There have still been, like, the second half this last week against the Saints, where we had an outstanding first half, and even more specifically, and more outstanding second quarter. We put up 21 points in the second quarter against the Saints, which is where the game, I think, was truly won.
Mm-hmm.
But then we come out of the locker room in the second half, and it just felt like KOC was just trying not to lose at that point.
That was frustrating.
Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, punt. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, punt. And like, there was just no creativity, no excitement, and the Saints almost came back.
Yeah, I mean, it came down to the wire, like even down to the point where on one of the Vikings' last drives of the game, like it ended up being a rush by Josh Dobbs on a third down play.
And he kind of tripped.
Yeah, for it was supposed to be for 3 or 4 yards, or even 2 or 3. And you're right, he I don't know if it was a broken play or what, but it was like a fake handoff, and he kind of turned around and tripped forward, and I mean, that could have been a pivotal play. Thankfully, it wasn't. Like, it didn't, determine the outcome of the game.
Well, I saw there are a handful of people on Twitter that do a lot of replays, and they get access to the like end zone cam and all the different other cameras around the building. And that play specifically, somebody mentioned that if he doesn't fall, he's got an open lane. He could have taken it all the way.
Could have.
Highly unlikely, but I mean, who knows? It was a busted play because he goes down, tripping over his own shoelace or who knows what.
Just air, I'm pretty sure. But I'm pretty sure on that play, all he had to do was get a first down, and it would have been game over.
Right. No timeouts for the Saints. Kneel the ball, run out the clock, game over. You're right. But, yeah, that set up a fourth down and a punt that got the ball back in the Saints' hands, and they had, 15 seconds or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
To try and do something with Jameis Winston because Derek Carr had gone out with shoulder and concussion.
Yeah, which you hope he's okay. But I think that was a turning point for the Saints. I don't know. I mean, obviously the quarterbacks play a little bit differently. I don't know if they just you're never too lucky in the NFL. Usually, like, things happen for a reason. But if Jameis had some lucky throws, I mean, he did throw 2 late game interceptions, which probably sealed it for the Vikings.
I think at that point he was just trying to force it downfield to make a play.
Yeah, which has been his play style his entire career. Gunslinger, he throws a beautiful deep ball. It's just he's also going to throw. Didn't he throw 30 interceptions one year? Like,
I don't remember.
20 plus interceptions.
He had that beautiful touchdown to, was it Olave that caught it in the back corner of the end zone?
Yeah, it reminded me of
amazing.
the almost touchdown that Jordan Addison had earlier in the game.
Yeah.
It's just Olave's was, I mean, there was no question about it. That was a touchdown. Beautiful pass, beautiful catch. And you couldn't have defended it any better. I think it was Byron Murphy Jr. on that play. He couldn't have been in a better position. It's just sometimes that's how it works. Like, the offense, they get paid too.
So anyways, late in the game, not even late in the game, just in the second half in general, very vanilla play calling. It ended up being a lot closer than it should have been. I also wonder, speaking of that Olave catch, and then you brought up the Addison, what could have been catch. Coach, he challenged that Jordan Addison. And we saw pretty clearly on TV replay that he had his feet in bounds, but then once he hit the ground, he didn't survive the ground and the ball came out. And so my question with that play is, one, you've got to have somebody in the booth watching the same replays that we're watching at home.
Yeah.
Like,
and with, if not, better access to even more stuff that we can't see.
Right. So the question I have first is, did Coach just did he think he had a better perspective on it? He's like, no, he caught that. And that's why he threw the red flag. And then my other question is, that was pretty early on in the game. I think that was first or second quarter. It was definitely in the first half. That's pretty early to be challenging something when we had pretty good control of the game.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, why are you going to challenge something there that you could potentially lose, and then you end up losing a challenge and a timeout for later on in the game when it could really matter? It seemed like maybe there, with that particular instance, there were some things that could have gone better that Kevin O'Connell could have done a little differently to net a different outcome that may have been more positive.
For sure. This kind of reminds me, I think soon after O'Connell was hired as the head coach over a year ago now, there was some news story that came out that basically O'Connell was also going to hire like a clock management liaison, or like somebody to help him out, somebody to be up in the booth to kind of give him that analytic, information on a play-by-play basis. And I feel like last season, obviously a million things went right for the Vikings to go and win 13 games in KOC's first year. But I feel like we weren't talking about like these missed challenges as much, and KOC's never been perfect with clock management, but I feel like it wasn't like such a detrimental thing that we noticed it too much. So I wonder if that one person or a couple of people that were hired to help with the analytics and potentially be a person in the booth to be like, yeah, no, challenge it. We got a good shot at getting this challenge. I wonder if it's the same person, or if they've put somebody else in that role, or if they've eliminated that role, or whatever. That'd be interesting to find out and see if they still have that eye in the sky for KOC just to help him out with those gut punch decisions in the heat of the battle.
Yeah, and I would feel like as a head coach, when you have a million different things happening all at once and you have to make a decision literally within 35 seconds, like, you've got to have other people looking at all of those different aspects of the game and giving you the information you need so that you can make the best decision possible.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know if it were me, which I'm never going to be a head coach of anything, but if it were me and I just had someone I knew in my ear, like, let's say a fourth down is coming up and it's kind of like, should I go for it? Should we not? If I had somebody in my ear say, hey, it looks like there's a 30% chance of winning the game if you make this fourth down, then at least you know, and you can still make the decision like, yeah, that's good for me. Or, hey, if you don't make this first down on this fourth down play, you have a 2% chance of winning. Like, maybe you punt it. I don't know. Like, it's only going to help you. Not that person in the booth makes the decision, but they can make it easier.
At least feed you the information so that you can make a better decision than just like, oh yeah, we'll just go for it or whatever. So
yeah, I don't know if they still have that person in the booth or wherever, whoever, or if it's the same one or what's going on. But it does seem to be a little bit more noticeable. And maybe it's just, the ball has bounced a different way in the last few games than it did in those similar situations last season.
With that Addison catch in particular, I remember watching it live and thinking, oh, he caught that. He caught that. And the initial replay didn't show the ball popping out once he hit the ground. And so I'm thinking like, oh, good challenge. And then right before they cut to commercial break, you see the ball pop out. And then you're just like,
yeah, there's one camera angle that had a plain as day shot of the ball popping out.
And then, I mean, that's when everybody on Twitter is just saying like, that was a bad challenge. That was a bad challenge. Why did he challenge that? And I mean, it didn't end up really affecting the game too much. He did challenge another play in the second half that ended up like not hurting the Vikings. They won the challenge, but it benefited the Saints more. It was kind of a weird challenge.
Yeah, it was like it only benefited the Vikings because after they threw the challenge flag, it was like, oh crap, because I think it looked like a catch and then a fumble with a clear recovery by the Vikings. But then after the Vikings threw the challenge flag, it became pretty clear because on the field they had called it as an incomplete pass. I think Alvin Kamara kind of bobbled it, and then so they ruled it on the field to be an incomplete pass. And KOC, I'm pretty sure, was like, nope, that was a catch and a fumble, and we recovered it, so challenge flag. Which, when you're playing Madden, of course, that's what you're gonna do. But it ended up being that they determined it was a catch, and he was down by contact, and then lost the ball.
And he was down, his butt hit the ground like a fraction of a second before the ball popped out, which is where, like, even in replay, it was tough to see, and that's why that one took forever to process and took forever for the officials to kind of come to a conclusion on what had actually happened. And that was a better challenge, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think you have a strong case here. It ended up benefiting the Saints more because they got the completed catch as opposed to an incomplete pass or whatever they had originally ruled on the field.
But because the Vikings technically won the challenge because the ruling was changed, so the Vikings technically won it, they didn't lose their timeout?
They didn't lose a timeout, but because KOC had lost his first challenge in the first half, that was his final challenge of the game.
Yeah, you only get an extra challenge if you win two
in a row.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe that's another part of looking at your own self and scouting yourself and figuring out how you can do better. when your starting quarterback is a guy that has been there, 15 days at this point.
As of today, as of the recording of this episode.
You probably have bigger things to think about if that's your situation. But as long as you're winning, I don't care if you win by 1 point or 2 points like the Broncos did 2 nights ago, or if you win by 200 points, like that still goes as one win. So if you can mess up and still be winning, then that gives you the leash to figure out how to fix those mistakes.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. The Vikings are one of the least penalized teams in the league this season.
That's huge.
Very
That's
big.
huge.
Very disciplined, very focused. They're just not making those silly mistakes.
And at least they're not getting caught. One big thing is when Dalton Reisner, Chad Greenway leg kicks it 200 feet in the air. He's lucky when he doesn't kick somebody in the face, because that would have been a penalty.
That video was hilarious.
And him on the sideline, like, I almost kicked that guy in the face.
Ugh. What a great addition to our team.
As of right now, I hope they re-sign Dalton Reisner. I assume his contract is up at the end of the year. There's that'll be a fun talker towards the end of the year, like looking at the guys who will be free agents and who the Vikings should sign and who they shouldn't, and then that'll be a fun episode for us. But yeah, as of right now, I want Reisner to be at least a few more years with the Vikings. He's doing good.
He's playing great, and I think honestly, Ed Ingram's playing better because he's there.
Potentially, and yeah, maybe they just lucked into timing of Ed Ingram figuring some stuff out and getting luckier than not. I don't know. Something has worked, and that offensive line has been incredible, which, again, when your starting quarterback is a guy who has been in town for 2 weeks, that's such a luxury to have, to know that for the most part, your line up front is going to hold up.
And Josh Dobbs had so much time.
Yeah. And even on the times that he lost, he didn't have much time, or he, held it a little too long in the pocket.
He only got sacked once.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're used to seeing 2, 3, 4 sacks a game on Kirk Cousins, and that's not throwing shade at Kirk Cousins. That's just the reality of, your traditional pocket passer versus a guy who can get out and run and make plays on his feet, which Josh Dobbs continue to do.
I've seen regarding Dobbs and his ceiling and where he is in his career and where he could be. And I've even said, I think on this podcast, like I don't see him becoming out of nowhere a Pro Bowl type quarterback, just because look where he's been and look what he hasn't done already. But looking at it, he's never really gotten an opportunity. His first couple of years, he was the backup behind Ben Roethlisberger. Like even, retiring Ben Roethlisberger is not somebody who's going to lose his job to a young journeyman, rookie type quarterback. And then everywhere he's been, I mean, you can see the joke about where he's been the last calendar year. 5 teams?
He's been to Cleveland twice.
Yeah.
And where else has he even been?
He was a Jaguar. I saw something. There's a picture of Jacksonville Jaguar quarterbacks, Josh Dobbs, Nick Foles, and Gardner Minshew, all on the same team at the same time. It was a fun picture to look at.
Where else was he? Was he in Houston? No.
Tennessee.
I
think so. Tennessee, I believe. The Vikings, Cardinals, and Titans are the only teams he started for.
Okay. But he's been with Cleveland twice.
Yeah, and his last stint was just an off-season deal.
Which that's kind of an interesting sub storyline with Deshaun Watson going down with a season-ending injury this last week.
So great. I love it so much. If anybody needs to have his ability to play football taken away, it's that dude.
Well, I think what's more ironic for the Browns is Dobbs is now playing well.
Yeah. I mean,
as a starter somewhere else.
He is the NFL's cover photo right now. The joke was that he usurped Taylor Swift as the cover photo on the NFL's pages. That's awesome.
Hey man, more power to you.
Yeah. Any reason to not talk about Taylor Swift, which I'm doing right now. So whatever.
Just playing into it.
Josh Dobbs. But to kind of go back to my point, Dobbs has never really gotten a major opportunity other than, he started like the last 2 games with the Titans a couple seasons ago. And then 8 games with the Cardinals, and they won one of those games. I'm going to chalk that up to the Cardinals being a garbage organization. We see all these videos. I tweeted about it earlier. I retweeted one of the Vikings videos of Byron Murphy and Harrison Smith. It was after Byron Murphy's interception.
Oh, that was such a cool video.
And Harrison Smith walked up and he's like, "Congrats, man. Did you see me? Did you hear me yelling you?" And Byron Murphy retweeted that. It's like, yeah, Harry in the play was like, "No, you take this. You take this."
Yeah, Harrison Smith could have easily taken it.
Oh yeah.
Didn't, stepped back and let his teammate take the interception.
Yep.
Super cool.
But that just highlights, I feel like, as an outsider who's never set foot in the Vikings locker room, I feel like those guys play for each other.
Well,
that locker room is so cohesive right now.
Another cool moment was game balls after the game in the locker room, and coach gives a game ball to Ty Chandler, and he had that touchdown pulled off the board because of the Brian O'Neill holding penalty, and Brian O'Neill comes up to him and puts his hand around him and goes, "I owe you one, man." You're right. These guys are playing for each other. And I said it last week, and I think I've even said it in previous weeks. The culture of this team is built different than any other team in the league that I've seen.
Yeah.
And we only really closely follow the Vikings, so we can't speak knowledgeably about all 31 other teams in the league. But I truly think that the brotherly love that this team has makes it different, and it's the reason they've been so resilient through an 0-3 start, a 1-4 start, losing their starting quarterback, losing Justin Jefferson, which, by the way, they've won 5 in a row without him.
Yeah, that's
which
crazy.
Is unbelievable. Playing a few games without Darisaw, and a lot of other injuries that, we don't have time to mention probably because it would take the rest of the episode. Jordan Hicks went down this last week. That'll be a big hit for the defense. Just blow after blow after blow, and here they are, 6-4.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, and all that to go back to Dobbs and his other biggest opportunity as a starter with Arizona. What we hear about the Cardinals from our seats here in Iowa is the organization, they make you pay for lunch, and the head coach is not that great, and obviously they're a losing team right now, and who's the quarterback, blah blah blah. How would anyone thrive in that locker room, in that situation? And maybe it's just Dobbs getting out of that situation and being like, I have to focus 100% on football, so we're reaping the benefits of that.
It's been fun to listen to Dalton Reisner talk. His post-game locker room interviews, just he talks about that, and he's very open and transparent. And I think it was the Vikings were 2-4, so it would have been after week 6. Whoever they played that week. Anyways, he made the comment to whoever was interviewing and just said, "We're not a 2-4 team. I've been on a 2-4 team the last 3 seasons," referring to the Broncos, which
I forgot. That's a good talker this week.
So yeah, that's kind of a fun storyline. But he said this team is not like those teams. This team is different, and I've really appreciated his perspective this season, and I've watched several of those post-game interviews in the locker room because he brings that kind of fresh perspective. He hasn't been around. He wasn't there last year. He doesn't know Kevin O'Connell or these guys as well as those that have been around for a year or two do. So, yeah, it's just been fun to kind of get his perspective as a newcomer to the team.
Yeah, and yeah, we gush on our perspective of what we think the locker room is like and what we think as outsiders it's like to work with that coaching staff and how everybody feels in that area and that facility every day. Honestly, we can't know. As I say about Kirk Cousins all the time, unless it's all an act, unless all this media stuff that's coming out and these interviews, unless it's all fake for some cameras, which would be extremely hard to do for a professional football team to like have to put on a happy face during these locker room interactions. I think it speaks volumes to the GM and mostly the coach. I think KOC, it starts with him to bring that energy and that leadership to make it a good place for these players to go every day, a good place to go to work, and to be happy and to be a good teammate.
He was mic'd up. Kevin O'Connell was mic'd up. Did you watch any of that?
I saw the like arms out, like what the heck, after Josh Dobbs had that crazy rushing touchdown.
Oh, that was awesome. I wish we could have been in the stadium when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
That place had to have been electric.
Yeah, it probably similar to when we watched Kirk Cousins on, I think, the last longest Vikings quarterback run.
Touchdown against the Cardinals when we were there last season.
Yeah, so which that was electric. But I can't even imagine. It's got to be a whole enlightened sense of excitement in that stadium right now with Josh Dobbs. Like
for sure. Anyways, just a plug for anybody listening and for you. Go and listen to the whole Kevin O'Connell. They did the Vikings did on YouTube like a combo video between Harrison Phillips and KOC. They were both mic'd up against the Saints at home, and both were worth listening to. But it was really fun to. Of course, they're not gonna publish any of the actual play calls that KOC gives, but you could just hear just the calm, cool, collected, he's talking to Josh Dobbs in his headset, and he's just like, you need to play again? All right, here you go, man.
I did see that, yeah. I'll give it to you again.
Yeah, he's not rattled, he's not phased, he's not mad, he's not upset. He's just like, all right, here we go. And I mean, just, giving him options like, hey, you've got checkdowns if you need them. Use your feet if you need to. Just go out and do what you need to do, man. A lot of trust, which was fun to see.
Well, I tweeted during the game that I feel like KOC is, it's out of necessity, but I feel like he is unlocking a whole new enjoyment, a whole new skill set out of being a play caller and a coach when it comes to a quarterback that's been there for less than 2 weeks. I feel like KOC has to read the field more from the sidelines as if he were the quarterback. And it's only helping that KOC did play NFL quarterback. I think I saw last week or this week, he had a quote where it's basically like, yeah, you can be the best classroom quarterback in the world. You can be a Hall of Famer in the classroom. And even to step out on the field and read the defense and be able to perfectly know exactly what's going to happen and everything go perfectly right, but maybe you just can't make that throw to score a touchdown. And maybe you'll know I have to throw it right here, right now at this perfect time. And if I do that every single time because I'm reading the defense, it's going to be a touchdown. We're going to win the game. But maybe you just can't make that throw. And he even said, I just, a lot of times I just couldn't make that throw. But that's a huge difference between he could have been a Hall of Famer, as far as the classroom part of being a quarterback goes, the pre-snap reads, the game planning. He could have been, the greatest of all time. And he didn't say that he could have been. I'm just saying. But if you can't make that throw, then you got to become a coach and then find the guy that can make that throw and teach him how to read the field that way, which I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing with KOC. And then he seems to be okay with hey, here's your read, here's the play. If it breaks down, you know what to do. Just go run it. We'll live to see another down, and maybe you'll run for a almost 20-yard touchdown. You just never know.
I think you mentioned this before we started recording, but you had a theory that maybe the Dobbs rushing touchdown was something that KOC had drawn up that he was really hoping to see, and it wasn't a Dobbs rushing touchdown.
Well, yeah, if you watch that, like you said, the Vikings YouTube clip, as he's like watching the play happen, you just see KOC like, what's going on? Like, what? Oh, he's running? What? And then he scores a touchdown. The stadium goes nuts. And KOC, he doesn't look mad, but he's like
scratching his head like, what?
Yeah, what just happened? It's like, and whoever he's talking to in his headset, he's like, did you see that? Like, he just pointed that way and he just ran for a touchdown. Like, what? And then as Dobbs is running to the sideline, he just puts his arms up like, what are you doing? Like, how? Like, okay, like, we'll go for it.
Hey, we got 6 there.
It almost seemed like, obviously he wasn't mad about a touchdown, but like it almost seemed like maybe he had drawn up and called at the perfect time. Like he was waiting for this defense to show up a certain way in this part of the field, and he called what he thought was the perfect play. He's like, oh, it's going to be perfect. It's going to be a end zone, or like a touchdown on the off shoulder of this, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to get so much praise for this play call. And then like that doesn't happen at all, but it's still a touchdown. And all you have to do is like, okay, like let's go. Like you have to be happy about that.
Yeah, and he'll never be the guy that's like, oh, I did have the perfect play called, and it did break down, and now he'll just be like, no, Josh made a great play.
Yeah, and to your point too, even if Josh starts around and he loses 30 yards, maybe we'd see the sideline video of him like, Josh, what are you doing? You could have thrown this way or throw it away. Like, but he would have never gone to the press conference after the game and been like, yeah, I had the perfect play called. Like, it is what it is.
Well, and we've seen KOC like put his arm around Kirk, because I think something we've seen with Kirk Cousins in the last handful of years is he gets a little bit of a hot head.
Oh yeah,
when games get really, really intense, and maybe he throws a pick or something happens that ends a drive and he's got to come off maybe throws an incomplete pass or whatever. I can think of a handful of instances where Kirk has just been frustrated visibly, like you can almost see the steam coming off of his head as he's walking off the sideline, and you never see KOC freak out. He just puts his arm around him like, hey, it's all right, we'll make it work, it's okay, calm down.
I think the most angry, and sure, if we really paid attention to him at every second of every game for his entire career so far, we could point out like one thing where he's like, he freaked out right there. But I think the most angry he's ever seemed as the Vikings head coach, at least publicly, was one of his press conferences earlier in the season where he's talking about guys fumbling. And he's like, yeah, it's a problem we need to fix. And if we can't, then we need to get some other guys in there that can fix this problem. And we haven't seen as many fumbles since then.
Yep.
So maybe
that problem has resolved itself for the most part, which is good.
Dang it, Evan, where's the wood?
We've got plenty.
Right. Yeah,
that's
there you
fine.
go. Because to talk about the Broncos game, like that's one of the huge reasons the Bills, one of the better teams in the league, they lost to the Broncos a couple days ago, is because they couldn't stop turning the ball over. I think they fumbled it. James Cook fumbled it
on the first play of the game.
Offensive play of the game.
Yeah.
And then he got benched for a little bit. And to his credit, he came out and he started running like a maniac and had close to 100 yards, if not 100 yards. But Josh Allen, what do you throw? 2 picks? 3 picks?
Something like that.
Yeah, they couldn't stop turning the ball over, and ultimately they lost by 2 points. This isn't a Bills podcast, but even to the point that it came down to a last-second field goal attempt for the Broncos, because the Broncos were down by 1, and it was something like a 30-ish yard field goal. They came out, clock was running, no timeouts left.
I think it was a little bit longer initially.
Yeah, well, yeah. But yeah, they rushed the field goal team out and set everything up and barely missed the kick. Will Lutz barely missed that kick. It was wide right by it seemed like a yard. And then all of a sudden, oh no, the Bills messed up. They pulled a Vikings and there were 12 men on the field. And if not for that one mistake, compiled by all the other mistakes throughout the game, the Bills send the Broncos home as losers. But so the Vikings, going up against the Broncos, need to keep their mistakes in check. You mentioned earlier, they're one of the least penalized teams in the league. They need to keep that up.
Yeah.
The turnovers, which they're prone to turn the ball over, they need to continue to not turn the ball over. Josh Dobbs fumbled it 3 times in his first game. over a week ago, I don't think he had any fumbles against the Saints.
We didn't turn the ball over, which you said.
Yeah.
If the Vikings don't turn the ball over, they'll win the game.
Yep.
Well, here we are. They finally completed a game without a turnover, and they won the game.
Yeah. So prove me right. It's a small sample size, but yeah.
And I mean, I think traveling to Denver presents some interesting challenges. Playing at altitude is different. Playing outside in the middle of November in Denver is different. It'll be cold probably. And then playing on Sunday night, prime time, that's different too.
That a whole different set of variables there.
And then you add in the wrinkle that the Broncos are riding this 3-game win streak themselves.
I like how you said they're riding it.
Let's ride.
Oh man, that's so bad. I hate Russell Wilson just because he's so cheesy, and I feel like he's a robot. And
what was his video that he posted this week? He I forget what buzzword he used, but he used some buzzword. This is how bad it was. I don't even remember what it was. But he's selfie at his house by his pool or whatever.
Was it the unlimited thing?
That's what it was.
That's from a few years ago.
Oh, really? I thought I'd never even seen it, so I thought it was from this week.
No, it's so cringy because he's like, I've been thinking about what my alter ego should be.
Yeah,
and, if you're gonna be awesome, you're gonna be unlimited. You're gonna be Mr. Unlimited. I don't care who you are, how many millions of dollars you make. You're not cool if you say that you are Mr. Unlimited. It's so annoying. I'd hate myself for just saying that right now. And yeah, he seems like not a real person. R2D2 or C3PO, his AI hasn't been figured out quite right. And I just hope he doesn't tear up the Vikings secondary.
Well, hopefully the Vikings defensive line can get after him and put him in the dirt quite a bit.
Yeah, get Daniil some run time. DJ Wanham, how good has he been looking? My goodness.
Both of those guys coming off the edge have looked great. And the Vikings picked up previously number 55, now number 54, Anthony Barr.
Yeah, that's intriguing. It seems kind of like another Madden move. But when you lose a guy like Jordan Hicks for who knows how long, they've said that Jordan Hicks is what's the injury he had?
So he had compartment syndrome, which, if I understand it correctly, it's swelling within a compartment in your muscle where it can't expand. And so generally, for most people, compartment syndrome isn't going to be super bad. It just means you need to stop being active for a while. But in his situation, it was we need to operate on this right away, or it could get way, way worse.
Yeah, they made it sound like had they not acted as quickly as they did, it could have become severe. So ultimately, as far as health-wise, he's going to be okay, but I don't know if that means he misses. Well, no, they put him on IR, didn't they?
Yeah, so he's out for 4 weeks.
At least, yeah. But for initially, it was kind of confusing. And even now, is it 4 weeks or is it the whole season? You don't know. And you definitely felt it against the Saints when he came off the field.
Well, that's really when they were able to kind of come back and make some plays. And he's definitely he's the captain. He's the, what is the term that they use for the one with the headset? Is he the mic? Is that what they call him?
Well, he wears the green dot.
The green dot.
That's what they say. So I think is he an inside linebacker? Because it's 3-4 defense. So the mic would be the middle linebacker.
Sure.
But I think
he's
just
how
one
much
of
I
the
know about defense.
He's one of the two listed inside linebackers. Because the outside would be Daniil and I don't even know, Patrick Jones. I'm not sure who. We should know this. But yeah, like you said, Vikings signed former Viking Pro Bowler Anthony Barr. So this might be one of the better defenses he enters into. I think even coming out of college, they kept saying like Anthony Barr, he's better served in the 3-4 defense, which for his entire Vikings career, I'm pretty sure they were in the 4-3 defense, which there is a pretty big difference. So it'll be interesting to see, one, if he gets playtime, and if he's not just a depth guy, which something is wrong if he gets a lot of playtime even this week, because you don't just sign a guy off the street who doesn't know. He knows the area, he knows the facility, he knows some of his teammates, but he doesn't know the defense. Like, he's never played in this defense.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to play a lot this week, and probably not even next week against the Bears, but I could see him coming out after the bye, after having some time to acclimate to this Brian Flores defense, and really get comfortable in the system.
Yep. Well, and I'm pretty sure he's on the practice squad, so
Yep.
He'd have to be elevated. I think even it would be very telling if he was elevated for the Broncos game, because then that means they need more bodies in there at the linebacker position. So
Well, and I've said this before, and I know he's listed as a safety, but Josh Metellus, man, I feel like that guy, he's not, he looks bigger than he is in his pads on the field. I've looked at his like weight and height. He's a little shorter, which makes him look a little stockier maybe. But I don't know. He's played that linebacker position effectively before, even though he lines up as a safety. And I think that's what's interesting about Brian Flores' defense is you got guys coming from all different directions, and Flores just thrives on chaos and thrives on confusing the opposing offense and confusing the opposing quarterback. And that's where he finds success.
Yeah.
But anyways, Josh Metellus, I think, has effectively played that like middle linebacker, kind of inside linebacker position before. I heard in Anthony Barr's kind of like welcome back press conference, they were talking about the double A gap blitz, and they were like, well, yeah, you used to run that all the time with Zimmer when you were here. You know, do you think you'll be a part of some of those type of things here with the Flores defense? He's like, well, yeah, definitely. And blah, blah. And as I'm watching that, I'm just thinking like, yeah, we've seen Metellus in that exact situation as a safety, coming in on that double A gap blitz and being very effective in that role. So I don't know. I feel like even without Barr in the next couple of weeks, you've got guys that maybe aren't listed as linebackers that can effectively play that position.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also, to your point, the Brian Flores defense, everyone in the backfield, so not on the line, everyone in the backfield, they're so fluid. You just need to watch a series of Vikings defense right now to see how much movement there is pre-snap. Like, Harrison Smith does like 6 wind sprints before the ball's even snapped. And that's not just him. They're all moving around, and that's the design of the defense.
Did you see that one play? This was another one of those plays where somebody broke it down on Twitter. But Harrison Phillips was lined up a little bit to one side of the center, and then right before the ball is snapped, shifts over.
Yeah.
And Metellus was right behind him. And if Phillips doesn't shift over, whatever video I was watching, I should find this to give credit to whom credit is due, but they did a great job of breaking down like, okay, when the offense first comes up to the ball, this is who's blocking who based on what the offense is looking at. And then Phillips shifts over.
Yeah.
One guy moves over the center, and it just blows up the whole play. Metellus has a free shot right at Derek Carr and takes him down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed a couple of times that Phillips shift, it's kind of quick, kind of violent, and it's like out of nowhere. Like, you don't expect it at all. It's like, holy cow. It's almost like, like, what are you doing? And then boom. So he did that a couple of times. But I know I did see the same breakdown you saw. I want to say that was Will Raggets.
I don't think
on
it
Twitter?
was. I don't think it was him. I think it was somebody else.
And there's also another guy that's doing a lot of good stuff. I'm gonna butcher his name. Leighton Glowdoc.
I've seen some of his stuff too.
Yeah.
It's not.
He
either
followed
of
us
those.
on Twitter, by the way. Yeah.
There you go. It's not either of those guys.
Yeah.
I'd recognize it if I saw it.
Okay.
I'll maybe have to dig through and find it again. I may have bookmarked it on Twitter somewhere. But
Yeah.
anyways, it was fascinating to watch because it was like, man, one little movement, and it's not like Harrison Phillips like went to a completely different side of, like, he just shifted over one guy.
Could change the read of the offensive line blocking system completely. You never know. Like,
and it was so close to the snap that the center nor the quarterback had any chance to like adjust.
Yep.
It was just like boom, snap, sack, all in, and it was beautiful. It was just textbook. Like, wow,
that was something they practice.
That was cool to watch.
And to that point, it took a little bit for the Vikings defense to start performing well, and it seems like maybe they just had to get down the Brian Flores defense. Obviously, they've been doing pretty darn well the last handful of games. This whole win streak, they've been doing okay. So when you bring in a new guy like Anthony Barr, or when a guy that's been injured starts thinking about coming back, I'm thinking of Marcus Davenport, if he does come back, you wonder, like, is that going to be a hindrance? Like, are they up to speed on the playbook and the nuance of even the stuff that's not in the playbook? Like, oh, Harrison Smith telling Byron Murphy, like, you're in position, you. Like, that could have been devastating if Harry tells him that, and then for whatever reason, Murphy's not on the same page and drops the interception. Not devastating. They probably still win. But, like, stuff like that. That whole you, and then you catch the ball, like, that's just playing together and knowing each other and almost like hearing
chemistry.
you without having anybody say it,
Yeah, it's chemistry.
So hopefully Barr gets it up to speed. It'd be nice. I like Anthony Barr. I'm excited for the signing, but it'd be nice if he doesn't see the field, because that means the likes of Ivan Pace and Andre Carter are playing very well, and Josh Metellus are playing very well. And I think if Anthony Barr gets in, that doesn't mean, we have to be concerned about Andre Carter or Ivan Pace, but it'd be nice if we didn't have to worry about it.
I think a lot of Vikings fans would like to see Anthony Barr back out there.
It will be weird to see him in his college teammate and Viking teammate's number 54. I guess he did reach out and got the quote-unquote blessing from Eric Kendricks to wear that 54, which is kind of a cool story, but
that is cool.
It will be weird. Like,
that is cool.
A Barr wearing 54. Where has he played, Anthony Barr? I know he was a Cowboy after the Vikings.
I think that's it. He played last season for the Cowboys, and then they released him because he got hurt at the end of last.
Has it only been one season without Anthony Barr?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Feels like forever. I guess he was a Zimmer guy. He was Zimmer's first draft pick.
Yep.
And not that Zimmer was making those draft picks.
Yeah, I looked it up today. He played from 14 to 21.
Huh.
And then played for Dallas last year. I think he started 10 games, played in 14 or something like that. Got injured, hamstring or something, and then was released
Interesting.
at the end of the season, and no one signed him in the offseason. Here we are, November 15th, and he's a Viking again.
Hey, I'll take it.
So, hey, we're both empty, so
yeah.
We need to refill quick, and then we should talk about the keys to the game.
Keys to this upcoming game.
Yes, to the Broncos game. We've kind of touched on a few of them.
Yeah, we've been fluid in talking about that a little bit. You kind of have written down, what do we do at quarterback? Which I think we both know the answer to that question.
Well, I just think that's an ongoing conversation, right? Like, Jaron Hall, as of today, as of November 15th, is still limited in practice, which means he's probably not going to play this week.
Well, I mean, he could turn it around. He could still be active.
Could be.
And
could be the backup, or
theoretically
could be
healthy enough to be the backup.
Suited up, but we
Man.
need a fresh Skol here.
Yeah, let me get the foam down a little bit.
You're
I don't know. I'm off my game right now. Although they say you're supposed to have a hard pour to some extent. So this is for the YouTube viewers right now. I've got about 2 inches of foam here.
basically 2/3 of your glass.
Yeah,
or 1/3 of your glass.
It'll figure it out. I'm going to blame it on the football glass. But yeah, I think Skol. Quarterback situation, obviously, Josh Dobbs, he's the starter. I think the unquestioned starter right now. He was on the injury report for today. He was a full participant according to the injury report, but
Thank
apparently
goodness.
there's an ankle issue. Let's hope that doesn't turn up anymore. Let's hope tomorrow he's not on the injury report. But yeah, I don't think there's any question right now. He is the starter until he loses that job.
I don't think there's any question right now in the immediate future. But I mean, what do you do if he has a bad game this week against Denver and Jaren Hall's healthy? What do you do if he has a bad game against Chicago in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And you go into the bye week and Jaren Hall's healthy coming back? What do you do? I definitely think there's still a little bit of uncertainty there. It's not like when Kirk Cousins went down and it's like,
Yeah.
oh crap, what do we do? And I guess at that point we had Jaren Hall and it was like, well, we're just gonna roll with him and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, it is Josh Dobbs' job until he loses it.
Yep.
I agree 100%. But I don't know. There's a chance that he does lose it, and maybe the magic wears off, and maybe the Pastronaut is grounded.
I mean, that's always a possibility. But, I mean, even nobody is safe from that. I mean, if, Dalton Reisner starts screwing up a bunch, he's going to lose his job. If JJ just suddenly can't ever catch a ball again, his leash is only so long. Like, JJ's leash is very long right now. But, I mean, everybody's got a leash, right? Like, everybody has a certain limit until they lose their job. If Kirk this year, if he wouldn't have gotten injured against the Packers and he came out, and who was the next game against? The
Falcons?
The Falcons. If he had been fully healthy and then was a starter again against the Falcons and threw 3 interceptions, yeah, I mean, you're a little annoyed, but you're not.
He'll play the next game
KOC is not going to bench him for one game where he throws 3 interceptions. Now, if he throws 3 interceptions in one game and then another 3 in another game and then another 3 in another game and you're on a losing streak, then even Kirk Cousins' leash is pretty short. Dobbs has earned a little bit of a leash. Kind of came in. He was the only option when he came in against the Falcons. I mean, I think he was the only healthy quarterback. We were talking about Cam Akers coming in as the emergency third guy.
Yeah.
But now, like you said, I think it's Josh Dobbs' job to lose. And to the whole 3 interceptions example, if he comes out against the Broncos and let's say Jaren Hall is fully healthy, and in the first half, Dobbs throws 3 interceptions and has like 10 yards passing, that leash is really short. And that's when everybody's saying, all right, the magic's done. The Pastronaut has been grounded, and we need to see what Jaren Hall does for us. But, I mean, that's the truth for any non-MVP level quarterback. You come out, you have a bad outing, the fans are clamoring immediately after the first interception for the backup to be in there. But I think as of right now, we've only seen good things. It's his job to lose.
Yeah. Unrelated to the quarterback job, if Alexander Mattison doesn't suffer a concussion this week, do you think there are any major changes at running back, given his production?
I mean, as far as like the role of a starter, they seem pretty content to have him be RB1. And they've shown that even after trading for a guy who was playing seemingly just as well in Cam Akers. But we already saw it. Like this, before Madison's concussion, that game was the most we had seen Ty Chandler all season. Now, granted, we had Cam Akers as well, but it seemed a lot more balanced without Cam Akers. They seemed to like kind of wake up to having a more balanced rushing attack. And yeah, we saw a lot more of Ty Chandler or even any backup running back than we have all season, which I think is only going to be the case. Obviously, it's going to be the case right now because Madison's in the concussion protocol. But even when he's back fully healthy, hopefully, you're only going to see more running backs until somebody plants their flag on that starting position. If Ty Chandler comes out and rushes for 300 yards against the Broncos, who's the RB1 now? Like, I don't care who's healthy and who's not. If you have a guy explode, his leash gets a little bit longer, and maybe they switch up jobs.
And it was interesting to see. I mean, not only was Anthony Barr brought in this week, but Myles Gaskin signed to the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
So adding a little bit more depth, albeit on the practice squad for now.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, your starting running back is, at this point, Ty Chandler, right?
Oh, I think at this moment, even if like Madison suddenly is passing the concussion protocol,
he didn't participate in practice today.
Yeah, I think he's still in the protocol. So at this moment, I mean, unquestioned, Ty Chandler is RB1 right now, and starting against the Broncos. And even if Madison kind of comes back and is cleared to play, I think they're still cautious with him. The Vikings this season have been quick to be cautious with players. I think of Marcus Davenport, even before he was on IR, like they kind of held him back a little bit. I mean, they're letting guys get healthy a little bit.
And I respect that.
Yeah, that's the way to go. That's how you make it through a long season. But yeah, I think it's Ty Chandler until Madison comes back, and I get the feeling when Madison is fully healthy, they're still going to ride or die with Madison. But like I said, everyone's got a leash, and let's hope Madison either figures it out or they enact that whole leash idea and make some changes.
It's definitely an interesting aspect of the Vikings game right now. I mean, the running game has been the worst aspect of everything: offense, defense, special teams. It's been abysmal. I mean, we're bottom tier in the league running the ball.
Yeah, when your quarterback who's been on the team for 2 weeks is he in the lead for rushing touchdowns now? He's at least tied, right?
Well, he's got 2 in 2 games.
I think that's 2 more than Madison has all season.
Yeah,
rushing touchdowns. Madison's got a couple of receiving ones.
Right, but purely on the ground. Yeah, and Cam Akers had the only other one, I think. So, yeah, I think you're right.
Oh, and Ty Chandler, he had that Wildcat.
Yeah, yep.
That was a rushing touchdown.
He had another one that was wiped off the board because of the holding call.
Yeah, I think I saw it. This season so far, he has 3 touchdowns called back from penalties.
Ty Chandler does.
Which to be a backup running back, a guy that's fighting for every play you can get, to have 3 different touchdowns wiped off the board, like that's got to be
a
just
little
devastating. Yeah,
a little demoralizing. Like, come on, guys. Come on.
And that touchdown that was called back, man, he was booking it.
He's fast.
He's got some speed too.
He's got a lot of get up and go.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch. I even saw it in preseason, like just watching him in preseason. I was like, man, this kid could be something.
Yeah,
got to get him the ball more.
I hope we see him more. I mean, it'd be nicer. It'd be easier to talk about this if Madison were a horrible person. If he were somebody that we're like, get this guy off the field, he's terrible, he's mean to people, he's a Deshaun Watson type, but he's not. Like, everything we know about Madison is off the field. He's just the nicest person in the world. So you don't clamor for somebody like that to lose their job. But if they can't get more than 2 yards a carry, if our eyes are bulging when he gets 6 yards on a rush, like, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, we hope that he can recover quickly. And obviously, we hope all the other guys on the team that are hurting right now can come back. We've got a lengthy injury report as of today, the 15th. So
yeah, it was long and kind of scary, but I mean, a few guys were full participants, even with showing up on the injury report. Greg Joseph, hope everything's good with him. He was, what did it say, personal reasons he wasn't participating in practice today. So that could mean anything. That could mean he had a cough, or somebody close to him is in a serious situation. You hope he's okay.
Yeah,
because he's been playing well outside of that one game.
Something I thought about too when I was looking at the injury report put out by the Vikings said that they didn't hold a formal team practice today.
I didn't see that.
So just fascinating. Like, you don't do anything Monday or Tuesday. Guys are maybe coming to the facility, getting treatment, maybe having some meetings and things like that. But other than that, nothing formal. Wednesday, you don't do anything formal either. It's 2 days of practice then. Thursday, Friday, and then...
Well, and you think about it, that's all the Broncos are getting too. I mean, they played Monday night. So it's not like the Vikings would be like, you know what, we're going to be nice to the Broncos and only practice a little bit. This could be maybe they have it scheduled this way for, every third game on Wednesday we just have a walkthrough. I don't know.
I get it. It was to me it's fascinating just from a work week perspective. Like, man, must be nice.
Well, and I'm sure they still had maybe that today was a very meeting heavy day where they have less meetings potentially on other regular Wednesdays. Sure. But that is a talker. I didn't notice that. I don't know. For all we know, it was holy cow, the injury report's long, so let's kind of just do a walkthrough, or they've had it on the schedule to do it this way since July. I don't know.
Yeah.
But who are we to say, especially if they come out and win?
We're just a couple of dudes.
From Iowa like drinking beer, talking the Vikings. You have a note here. The Vikings open up as underdogs, albeit on the road. Do you know what the point spread is?
It was 2. I don't know if it's changed.
Well, and in theory, the home team gets 3 points. So it should be a close game. Vegas is saying it's a close game. And the Vikings have been winning those close games.
And the Broncos have won 3 in a row. So, I mean, it will be close, probably. Probably.
Yeah, and, I mean, who knows if we're going to have Josh Dobbs can't play on, primetime games talker like we've somehow had the last handful of years with Kirk. But you never know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this whole season has been the Vikings figuring it out on the fly, and this kind of seems like a figure it out on the fly. Dobbs has not, with the Vikings, played in a primetime game yet or a night game. This will be after this game, he will have played more road games with the Vikings than home games.
And he's got 2 primetime games in a row coming up. Sunday night this week at Denver, and then Monday night next week.
Yep. And that one's at home,
Chicago.
Correct?
Yes, that's at Minnesota.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for this game. I think it'll be a fun one to watch. I hope KOC can kind of throw out the idea that you need to switch it up and kind of let your foot off the gas. Because like we've said a few times already tonight, that second half for the Vikings offense, and even for the defense, but I kind of throw that the defense hadn't prepared for, not Jacoby Brissett, for Jameis Wilson. There it is. Wilson! The defense hadn't really seen Jameis, and prepared for him, so I kind of throw them away a little bit. But the Vikings offense, it was a tale of 2 halves, and the first half they played so good, we kind of forgot that they didn't play that great in the second half.
And that, I guess, I mean, we're getting a little late into the episode here, so I don't want to take too much more time. Yeah. But a thought I had was perhaps Kevin O'Connell burned up all of his creativity in the first half and didn't feel like he could recycle some of the stuff. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. As a coach, maybe you just try some things, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And maybe the Vikings second half, everything you tried just happened to not work. So it seemed like everything they tried was a run play, and run plays just haven't worked.
Yeah, the Vikings don't have a run play. So I think back to Tom Brady and his, the majority of his years with the Patriots. We're not talking about, Tom Brady and his Hall of Fame running back. He didn't have a run game. Tom Brady's run game was his short passing game. And occasionally they'd have a running back have a decent day, but they were a pass-first team. So maybe the Vikings need to embrace the fact that they don't have a run game. Now, you never abandon it. You don't want Josh Dobbs to be throwing 60 passes a game. That's not sustainable. But, I mean, you don't keep going back to the run game if it doesn't work. Like, everybody knows, okay, they're going to run it here and they're going to lose 2 yards. Like, figure it out or figure something else out. And to your point, they just stop going to it.
And I can't remember if I've said this just to you, not on air, or if I've said this on the podcast, but I'll come back to it. I think the Vikings are a pass-first team, and you use the run game to set up the passing game. Am I saying that right? No, I'm wrong. I'm going to say that backwards. You're going to use the pass game to set up the run game, not the other way around. Because we are a pass-first team. I think you pass, and then you run occasionally to take the attention away from the passing game, get some of the pressure off of your receivers and the arm of your quarterback. It's not the other way around. It's not a Pittsburgh Steeler type run it down their throat type of offense, run, and then maybe use the play action to draw them off and throw for a first down. It's pass. All right, let's run. Let's give guys a break. All right, let's keep passing. Let's keep going on the passing game. Okay, let's run again a couple times here. Or situationally, right? Like, we need to run here. We need to burn some clock. We need to do this or we need to do that, whatever. It's 2nd and 1. We can get a first down on the ground here. Let's do that. Whatever. So I think the running game sets up the passing game. The passing game. Am I saying that wrong again?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. They have to complement each other.
Yes.
Old school football says run to pass. You need to run, and then you can throw play action, and then you can pass. That's not how the Vikings are set up.
That's what I'm trying to articulate.
Their talents. It's not their play caller's talent. Like, they don't have it. If we knew every time Madison was going to get 5 yards, every time he's going to get at least 5 yards, which that would be incredible. He'd be a Hall of Famer. Then you can let your foot off the gas a little bit and just run it because he's going to get 5 yards. Who cares? And maybe you need 10 yards. Well, you get 5, and then you figure it out from there. That's not how this team is not built that way. And all that to say, KOC needs to maybe not completely forget the idea of playing with a lead and kind of working the clock a little bit, but maybe just figure out his own way to do it. I mean, you can incorporate plays that have very high percentage passing plays, or give Josh Dobbs, I mean, this is something you don't have with Kirk too much. Give him 1 to 2 reads passing, and then make sure he has some kind of a lane to rush out of if he needs to. Work with the screen. If the screen's going to die, then run it. There is a way that KOC can find it in his style, in his team's style, in his play calling style to design a let your foot off the gas type playbook in the late game if you have a lead like they did against the Saints. They just couldn't figure it out. They did not play the clock working play style to their advantage. In a similar way, like we just said earlier, Brian Flores, something about his defense has changed. And he's a good enough coach that maybe he switched up some of his play calling style and some of his defense style. Maybe the players just finally figured everything out and they're playing to the best of their abilities. I'd say there's probably a little bit of both situation in that. Maybe KOC, specifically when it comes to, playing with a lead, he needs to figure that out too. Switch up his play calling style. Maybe the players need to figure something out a little bit. All this would be so much easier if the Vikings had a run game, but they don't. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and then I guess it'll remain to be seen, what the Vikings do kind of down the stretch here, with a couple of games before the bye and then 5 games after the bye.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, late bye for the Vikings is both, I think, kind of good and bad. It's kind of a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, well, with an injury report like they had today,
it's definitely a blessing that way.
Mm-hmm. And then you have guys like JJ, who, you can kind of stretch it out a little bit more if he's still not 100%. When you're RB1, as bad as he seems to be, maybe you find that blessing and letting him get another week to get over the concussion a little bit.
Yeah.
Marcus Davenport, we've seen him when he's healthy and playing, he's a disruptor in the defense. DJ Wanham has kind of filled that role pretty well in the last few weeks, but maybe Marcus Davenport with that late bye, that helps him out a little bit more. So I tend to believe the late bye is helpful injury-wise, but I don't know. If you keep winning and then you have a bye week, maybe that disrupts
it disrupts the rhythm a
Yeah.
little bit. Who knows?
We'll see. I mean, teams usually play better. They usually win right after their bye for the most part. But we'll see. I guess I don't remember last year if they won right after their bye.
It was a late bye last year too for the Vikings, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
I don't remember. Was it right after the Arizona game that we went to?
That could have been, and that was like Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'd have to go back and check. But, anyways, coming all the way back, like, just super exciting to be 6-4.
Oh my gosh.
Right now with 2 more games before the bye, and then those 2 games being arguably winnable games,
Mm-hmm.
all things considered. And then, I mean, who knows after the bye? I mean, a lot of those games seem fairly winnable too. I saw something, I thought about it earlier when we were talking, and I wanted to save it for the end. But I agree with this tweet that I saw earlier today that for the NFC North, it's going to come down to those last 3 weeks when the Vikings and Lions play each other twice in Week 16 and Week 18.
I'm pretty sure the Lions also have either 2 or 3 division games. I think they play the Packers at some point in that. Well, the Vikings played. It's Lions, Packers. I'm not sure.
Well, for the Vikings, it's Week 16 Lions, Week 17 Packers, Week 18 Lions.
Yeah, that's a
It's
huge
Lions,
stretch.
Packers, Lions to end the season. So I would say right now, the way it's looking is the divisional race is going to come down to the Vikings and the Lions.
Yep.
And it's going to come down to those 2 games in the final 3 weeks of the season.
And I believe both the Lions and the Vikings still at this moment hold their own destiny. And by that I mean, they control, by winning. If they keep winning, then they're going to determine if they go to the playoffs or not, or if they win the division or not. I think at this point, what are their, what's the ESPN odds to make the playoffs for the Vikings as of right now? It's like something like 70-something percent.
It's like 75%. If they would have lost against the Saints, it dipped pretty drastically.
Yeah, to like 30 or 40-ish percent.
Yeah, if they won, which they did, it went up to like 75%. So, I mean, like at this point, it's looking likely that the Vikings are in. It's just a matter of where they end up. I saw, and it's the like unlikeliest of scenarios, but I saw the Vikings being a 1 seed.
I mean, mathematically, sure, that's probably still a possibility.
It's still possible, but they'd have to win out and
get some help.
The Eagles would have to like lose like 5 more games or something like that, and it would be ridiculous and preposterous to think that that's a reality. But like, I mean, yeah, mathematically at this point, anything's possible, and that's why I'm a believer in the culture. I'm a believer in Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and what they've created here in only a year and a half of being with the Vikings. And shoot, I mean, if this is kind of what we can expect every season, sign me up. I'm excited. This is good stuff.
And for anyone, the last 6 weeks of Vikings football has pretty much made you have to believe in Kwesi and Kevin. Like, you don't have a choice but to at least give them credit. For the last 6 weeks, like we talk about the locker room and we talk about these in-season additions and Reisner and Barr and stuff like that, and how, everything, these guys are playing for each other and they're playing for the coaches, and that's not an accident. You look at like the Bears, where they've had, the same GM and coach change at the same time the Vikings did. And in that time, the Bears have traded for Chase Claypool, and that was a locker room cancer. And they have a quarterback controversy, which they really do, in their high first round pick, and then their was he undrafted or 5th round or something like that?
Tyson Bagent?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't remember, but low draft pick if he was drafted, or possibly undrafted. I don't know.
So from the Vikings and Bears at the same time basically hired a GM and a coach. And since then, the Vikings are obviously in a way better position than the Bears. So, they're doing something right. And not to completely pick on the Bears. We have friends who are Bears fans and whatever. But, I mean, you have to feel good about this team. And I think I even said it, talking about the playoffs again, I think I said it at one point when the Vikings had lost, their 3rd or 4th game. I said something like, well, I mean, Evan, you're an optimist, and obviously I'm a pessimist, and obviously I'm right because this Vikings team is terrible because they're 1-4. But I will say this: if they do get to the point that they make it to the playoffs, look out because they're going to be dangerous. Because in that hypothetical scenario, they've battled back and beaten the 49ers and beaten these teams that they have no business beating as a 1-4 team, at the time that I was making that point. And look at them right now. Yes, there's still a lot of season left. Yes, there's still a full chance that we are talking about, holy cow, how did this team go from 6-4 to 6-10? That's still technically a possibility. But you know what? As of right now, they're in the playoffs. If the season ended today, they're in the playoffs. And we couldn't say that a month ago, maybe. But it's exciting. It's fun. This team is dangerous. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree. We should probably wrap this up here. We've been talking for a while.
I like it.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
And a beer and a half in. And
yeah. What'd you think? What have you thought of this beer?
It's good. I mean, obviously very drinkable, very enjoyable. I would say it's probably not my all-time favorite IPA.
Okay.
But it's good. It's easy to drink, enjoyable, crisp. And I'll come back to what I said earlier. It's not trying to do too much.
Yeah.
It's unashamedly an IPA, and that's all it is. It's not bang, pow, pop, whiz. This is the cool thing that we can do with an IPA. It's just, no, we're an IPA.
Yeah.
That's all. So
I agree with that. I think about people talking bad about a Coors Light or a Bud Light, because they're cheap lager, they're just nothing beers. But also one thing I always think about those beers is yeah, maybe they're not world beaters, maybe they're they are the cheap beers, but one thing about them, they're consistent. If you buy a Coors Light today and drink one, it's going to taste the exact same as one that you bought when drank 2 years ago. They're consistent, and that's not the easiest thing to do when you're brewing beer. I think the Raging River, it's consistent. There's a simplicity to the flavor, but it's delicious. And I love IPAs, and I like this one a lot.
It's very good. Very good.
Thank you, Front Street.
Front Street. Anyways, good beer. You asked me earlier if I'd have it, and I was kind of yeah, maybe. I would have another one.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is the second one right here, so I have had another, and I will have more. They are good. And maybe we'll have to have some more Front Street on the podcast. In the future.
Absolutely. So, and you guys should too. If you do have some Front Street beer or any Iowa brewed beer, let us know what you think. How can they reach out to us?
Hit us up. Any of the socials.
Yeah. I really want to get some emails.
Yeah.
I want to read some emails off. I think it'd be cool to read some direct emails to us on the podcast. Send
us an email. We just created a link tree, which I didn't even really know existed until this week, but Linktree, the Skol Hop. You can find us there, and that literally is just a rundown of every place that we are on the internet, from email to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. It's all there in one spot. So wherever you like to interact, you can find us there on Linktree. And you can send us a message anywhere.
Yeah.
On any platform. And Austin's usually the one to be the guy behind that. But yeah, we'd love to interact, and we have stickers. We will give you a sticker. We'll put it in the mail if you give us an address.
Yeah.
I will personally pay for the stamp.
We can split it.
I have stamps. So
all right. So yeah, reach out to us. That'd be a lot of fun. It'd be fun to start getting some interaction, and add that as a wrinkle to our podcast. We're talking about some ways we can expand. Maybe some different content we can put out. Maybe some real-time content we can put out. TikTok's been a lot of fun at least for me so far. You've been putting together some really fun clips.
I've been enjoying making the content and then watching people enjoy the content.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
So hopefully we get a nice little following. Let us know. Like, we want to know if you're out there, if you're following us. Give us some feedback. We'll take it to heart. We can all be Skol hoppers together, and we can come up with a better name for our little community. But
I like it. Skol hoppers. It's nice.
I spent not even a tenth of a second thinking about that. So
it's got a nice little ring to it.
Yeah. All right, man.
Well,
I think this is a good point.
Let's do it.
Let's go beat the Broncos.
Let's do it.
All right. Till next time.
Skol.
Skol.